They say legends are forged in the unlikeliest of places, and in the golden age of American road racing, nobody expected the ultimate underdog to come from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Picture this, it's the early 1970s, and the Trans Am Series is the battleground where American muscle fought tooth and nail. Ford had its mighty Mustang, Chevy rolled out the Camaro, Dodge unleashed the Challenger, and all eyes were on Detroit's Big Three to decide who would rule the track. But then, out of nowhere, a dark horse emerged. It wasn't from Ford, it wasn't from Chevy, and it wasn't from Dodge. It came from a small company, often laughed at, often underestimated, the American Motors Corporation. AMC, the family car brand, the company that prided itself on frugality and practicality, suddenly stepped onto the racetrack with a car that looked the part, and against all odds, had the bite to match. That car was the AMC Javelin. And what started as a desperate gamble would soon become one of the most incredible underdog stories in American racing history. See, AMC was never supposed to be here. Formed in 1954 from the merger of Nash and Hudson, AMC made its living selling practical, economical cars. While Ford, Chevy, and Dodge threw haymakers in the muscle car wars of the 1960s, AMC was content to stay on the sidelines, building ramblers for the sensible buyer. They had less money, less market share, and less muscle in every sense of the word. But by the late 1960s, it became crystal clear: performance was selling. The youth market demanded speed, style, and cars that could tear up the road. AMC couldn't survive as the frugal family brand any longer. They had to evolve, or die trying. And so came the Javelin. Launched in 1967 for the '68 model year, the Javelin was AMC's first true pony car, a stylish, muscular fastback that finally gave the company some swagger. With its sleek roofline, aggressive grille, twin hood scoops, and muscular stance, the Javelin didn't just look like a competitor, it looked like a winner. And under the hood, AMC gave buyers options: inline sixes for the budget-conscious and a lineup of stout V8s for the performance crowd. The top dog was a 390 cubic inch V8 punching out over 300 horsepower, more than enough to make the Javelin a legitimate street fighter. But AMC knew that looks and spec sheets weren't enough. If they wanted respect, they had to prove it on the track. Enter the SCCA Trans Am Series, America's fiercest road racing championship. This wasn't drag racing, this was wheel-to-wheel combat on twisting circuits where skill, endurance, and engineering were tested to the limit. In 1968, AMC rolled the dice and entered two specially built Javelins into the series, prepared by Ron Kaplan and Jim Jeffs. These weren't stock cars, they were purpose-built machines fitted with a 450 horsepower AMC V8, punched out to 304 cubic inches, backed by a 4-speed manual, race suspension, and all the tricks of the era. And with drivers like Peter Revson and George Fulmer behind the wheel, the Javelin shocked the racing world. Against the might of Penske's Camaros and Shelby's Mustangs, AMC's little Javelin held its ground. Thirds, fourths, consistent podium finishes. It was far more competitive than anyone ever expected. The press called them the Cinderella team because no one thought AMC belonged in the same league as Ford or Chevy. And yet there they were, running wheel-to-wheel with America's giants. For a company that had never chased racing glory before, it was a jaw-dropping debut. To celebrate, AMC did something bold. They decided to build a limited run of road cars inspired directly from their race machines. Painted in red, white, and blue, the colors of Revson's race car, these Javelin SST Trans Am editions were like nothing AMC had ever produced before. Only 100 were made, and they weren't meant for profit. In fact, AMC lost money on every single one. But that wasn't the point. These cars were built as rolling billboards, proof that AMC could build something fast, loud, and downright cool. Under the hood sat the same 390 V8 as the standard Javelin, but tuned for more punch, 325 horsepower, and a mountain of torque fed by a 4-barrel carburetor and breathing through functional ram air hood scoops. Backed by a 4-speed manual with a Hurst shifter, a limited-slip rear end, power disc brakes, heavy-duty suspension, and fat Goodyear polyglass tires, the SST Trans Am wasn't just a cosmetic package, it was a legitimate performance car. lighter than a comparable Camaro, and surprisingly nimble for its size. Of course, there was a catch. Trans Am racing rules capped engines at 305 cubic inches, which meant the race cars ran a D-stroked 304 version of AMC's V8, but the road cars got the bigger 390 because, well, why not? It made for a wild disconnect between the race cars and the street cars, but it gave enthusiasts something special. And in an era defined by special editions and homologation models, the AMC Javelin SST Trans Am was one of the rarest and most unique. But still, 100 cars was barely a blip compared to Ford or Chevy. If AMC wanted lasting credibility, they needed more than just a one-off special. They needed star power. And that's when they made their biggest move yet. They lured racing legend Mark Donohue away from Chevrolet's Camaro program and put him behind a Javelin. It was a daring move, and AMC doubled down by releasing a Donohue Edition Javelin SST, 2,500 strong, with complete unique badging and, most importantly, a rear spoiler designed to meet new SCCA homologation rules. Suddenly, AMC wasn't just competing, they were serious. By 1970, AMC had proven the Javelin could hang with the big boys, but what came next would shock everyone. The company poured its limited resources into refining the car, and with Mark Donohue now leading development, the Javelin transformed from a plucky underdog into a genuine threat. The timing couldn't have been better. The 1970 season brought a redesigned Javelin with a more voluptuous, aggressive body style, improved aerodynamics, and new suspension geometry. It wasn't just a facelift, it was a car engineered with racing in mind. Donohue, a master of vehicle setup and development, worked closely with AMC engineers to squeeze every ounce of performance from the platform, and the results were undeniable. By 1971, AMC wasn't just showing up, they were winning. The Javelin's handling was crisp, its stability was unmatched, and its reliability allowed it to outlast rivals in grueling races. Against the firepower of Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, AMC had finally built a weapon worthy of championship glory. And then came the breakthrough. In 1972, AMC's Javelin didn't just compete, it conquered. With Donohue at the helm and the team's hard-won experience paying off, the Javelin stormed through the season and clinched the Trans Am Championship. For a company often treated as the runt of the American auto industry, this was nothing short of a miracle. The Javelin had gone from Cinderella team to championship powerhouse, and it changed the way enthusiasts saw AMC forever. Meanwhile, on the street, AMC continued to feed off its racing credibility. The Mark Donohue Edition Javelins became highly sought after, offering enthusiasts a direct connection to the race cars tearing up the Trans Am circuit. With 2,500 built, they were rare enough to feel special, but not so rare that fans couldn't get their hands on one. The combination of unique styling, rear spoilers, and V8 power made them some of the coolest pony cars of their era. And of course, those original 100 SST Trans Am tribute cars, painted in bold red, white, and blue, remained halo models, instantly recognizable as symbols of AMC's determination to fight above its weight class. What made the Javelin special wasn't just its speed or its looks, it was the story it told. This was a car that should not have succeeded. AMC had less money, less resources, and none of the muscle car heritage that Ford, Chevy, and Dodge enjoyed. Yet they defied the odds, out-engineered their rivals, and built a racing dynasty that no one saw coming. That's why decades later, collectors still revere the Javelin. It represents the ultimate American underdog story, the little guy who refused to quit and ended up on top. AMC may be gone as a company, but their Javelin lives on as proof that passion and perseverance can overcome even the steepest odds. So the next time you hear someone talk about American muscle, don't just think Mustang, Camaro, or Challenger. Remember the Javelin. Remember the little brand from Wisconsin that dared to dream big, went racing with giants, and won. Because at the end of the day, legends aren't born from comfort. They're forged in struggle. And that's what makes the AMC Javelin one of the most iconic underdog stories in automotive history. And with that, enthusiasts, we wrap up today's journey into one of racing's greatest David versus Goliath battles. If you enjoyed this story of AMC's rise to glory, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow gearheads, and subscribe for more untold stories from the world of cars. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.